Welcome to my new Dark and Darker Rogue guide designed to help you master the class. I am Drisboni, and in this video I am backed by Rogue expert and melee veteran, Ring.
Hey guys, I'm Ring, and I've played and streamed Rogue extensively throughout the Dark and Darker playtests, even participating in the first tournament the game has ever had. I'll be sharing my expertise in this guide.
This guide was made to have something for everyone, with the video being split through a few different sections. It features a lot of helpful information and introductions for beginners, a juicy PvP section, and 7 advanced tips at the end for more experienced players. The Rogue is a tricky high DPS class that specializes in assassinating its targets, using stealth and powerful damage cooldowns to set up surprise engagements and fast kills. A skilled rogue can be absolutely terrifying. They excel in melee combat and can tear through health points with damage over time.
Let's take a look at some pros and cons for the class. Among the pros of the Rogue class we have great damage options with high burst potential and damage over time, the best stealth potential in the game, fast movement and interaction speeds, being second only to the wizard in terms of movement speed, and lastly, the Rogue is very good at accumulating gold.
As for cons, the Rogue suffers from lower health and defense than other melee classes, and ineffectiveness at long range. The Rogue is also very cooldown reliant, while having some of the weakest starting gear out of any class.
The Rogue is at a weird place in the meta of Dark and Darker. The class excelled at tearing through low geared lobbies in previous playtests, but we cannot be sure of how Rogue will perform in the new high roller lobbies, when the class is likely to get outclassed in melee by barbarians and fighters and bullied by ranged options. The loss of the rapier is a big hit to the Rogue in this new update. The strength of the new daggers will determine where the class lands in comparison to the other melee classes.
Okay,
ambush poison.
Here's what you guys run, alright? Let's begin by talking about the Rogue's options for skills. Rupture is a pretty important skill for Rogue. It is one of your 2 damage cooldowns. You'll find it to be great if you have bad gear, as it's just flat 20 damage over time.
Weak point attack is your other damage cooldown. Even after its nerf, it is still very good. If you can coordinate with your team to attack the target you've weakened, they will die extremely fast. If you are solo, make sure to commit to attacking your weakened target ideally until they die. This can be quite risky, but worth it as you can dish out potentially more damage than Rupture.
Hide is Rogue's invisibility skill. This cooldown is a big part of Rogue's class identity. It is very versatile, and Rogue has many perks made to specifically enhance it. If this skill does not fit your playstyle, or you are struggling to dish out enough damage in PvP, consider dropping Hide in favor of running both Rupture and weak point attack.
Last and probably least, there is the Smoke Bomb. This skill is a lot less straightforward to make use of than the other 3, but can be very annoying when used as a chaotic last resort by the Rogue. If you use this, you're probably going to lack enough damage to be dangerous in a fight.
As far as perks go, the Rogue is spoiled for choice, having many great perks to pick from. The Lockpick set is extremely nice to have if you can fit it, especially if you play with teammates. Lockpicks are a bit hard to come across as of right now, so being able to gain access to higher tier chests for free is very good, especially if you go into the lower floor. You can get legendary loot from the golden chests.
Stealth allows you to move 10 steps while staying completely invisible. This can be exceptionally useful when using the hide skill, but is extremely high risk because it simply bugs out sometimes and kicks you out of your stealth when you move, which can instantly get you killed.
Poison Blade is great in both beginning and late game builds. Combine it with a good dagger or rapier and Rupture for great damage over time. Hidden Pockets is mediocre in my opinion. It takes up a perk slot with minimal benefit. Rather than use it to hide your potions, simply keep potions in your inventory and move them to your hotbar whenever you need them. Do this before getting into a fight, of course. You could also run bandages instead, as they do not glow in the dark. Backstab is great damage, but isn't super consistent due to the difficulty of sneaking up on someone's back. Definitely good synergy with ambush and weak point attack, though.
Creep is basically mandatory if you want to play a true stealthy sneaking rogue. You need the quieter footsteps, however even then I find particularly experienced players are still able to hear you.
Dagger Expert is a better perk in this new update, where Rapier is no longer equipable by the rogue. This turns the perk into a good enough choice to be included in non-invis builds.
Ambush is a very viable pick if you plan on using invisibility when you play. Ambush grants you 50% extra weapon damage for 3 seconds after you exit invisibility.
Trap detection's use is questionable outside of one specific situation which we will cover in the advanced tips section, so hold on for that. Pickpocket is good for memeing, but I wouldn't recommend it for serious play. You can pickpocket people's stuff in the tavern before the match starts though, which is pretty funny.
Here are the two builds we recommend. First, we have a more traditional rogue build. Using Rupture and Hide as your skills, and Ambush, Creep, Poison Blade, and Backstab as your perks, sneaking up behind enemies and stabbing them in the back is your priority. If you can land your ambush while hitting the back of the enemy's head, you can potentially one-shot the enemy by letting Rupture's bleed finish them off. Next, we have a more damage-focused build with no invisibility skill. Using Rupture and Weak Point Attack as your skills, with Poison Blade, Dagger Expert, Creep, and Lockpick as your perks, you'll be able to optimize your damage, ensuring the rogue does as much damage as his perks and skills allow him to.
If you cannot fit all of the perks in your build, prioritize them in the order we gave them to you. Rogue's starting gear is one of the worst, so we'll help you get started. Unless you're confident, avoid taking fights where you're outnumbered, as your kit gets outclassed by every other class's starting gear. PvE is hard for Rogue, but don't run past every mob, they don't stop chasing you. Instead, make them miss and hit them while they're open. If you need a more detailed guide on PvE, check my introductory guide, linked in the card at the top right.
Avoid getting into PvP until you have a good weapon, but if it does happen, make sure to use your throwing knives. Once you get some money, start bringing bandages because healing is very important. If you're playing solo, the best strategies in both stealth and non-stealth playstyles revolves around hit and run tactics due to needing your abilities to come off cooldown. Try and sneak in as many hits as possible while applying your cooldowns, then disengaging for a few moments to allow your damage skills to come off cooldown. This strategy is greatly enhanced by getting rid of Hide and instead running both damage skills at once if you're looking for a more aggressive playstyle.
If you're playing with a team, using your team as bait is a great strategy. This entails waiting for the enemies to approach your team while you hide out of sight, and as soon as they walk past you, you come out of hiding to attack them from behind while your team attacks them from the other side. Be sure to always go for the targets with lower health and armor first, like rangers and wizards. This strategy is greatly enhanced by using hide or invisibility potions and the perks that favor invisibility. Your damage cooldowns can be applied to your throwing knives. This means you can safely apply weakness and a chunky dot effect from a safe range, making it easy to disengage and wait for your cooldowns. In this advanced tips section, we will rapid fire through some of the most effective tips we can give you to get a step above the competition. Due to the sweet spot mechanic in this game, weapons do less damage when hitting closer to the handle. For a more detailed explanation, check my introductory guide. However, many stabbing weapons, which encompasses most rogue weapons, are unaffected by this. For this reason, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're forced to take on a barbarian or a fighter in a melee fight, get as close as you can so that their weapons do less damage to you and you're able to out-DPS them.
Turning off lights can make it hard for ranged characters to track you and add an element of chaos to fights that often favours the rogue, especially when outnumbered. Beware of enemies throwing torches at you to reveal your location.
Try and make noisy actions only when other, louder noises are happening to make it easier to mask your presence and approach groups.
Your footstep sounds while not wearing any shoes are a lot less noticeable. Try taking them off and you'll notice a significant change at the cost of a bit of speed.
Do not have your cooldowns up when trying to stealth because they actually glow in the dark and it's pretty noticeable.
Invisibility potions can be a great replacement to the hide ability and allow you to run both damage skills instead. People rarely use them, so you could buy them cheap from the trade market.
Trap detection lets you get to the maze loot room, which is locked behind unavoidable traps, meaning guaranteed damage taken. This spot is avoided for that reason, which means running this perk and going for the maze is guaranteed good loot. If you know any more useful tips that we did not mention in this video, please do not hesitate to mention them in the comments. Thank you. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this guide. This video is part of a series of guides for every class in Dark and Darker. If you enjoyed it, make sure to check out my other guides and let me know which class I should do next. I put a lot of work into these guides, so I hope I was able to teach you something. If you have anything you'd like to add to a subject we touched on, make sure to leave a comment. Any constructive criticism is also appreciated.
If you'd like to see more Dark and Darker content, especially from high-skilled players, Dresboni and I will be streaming the Dark and Darker playtest on Twitch. Be sure to say hello if we're live.
If you're not familiar with the new patch and the new updates, I'm going to make a video explaining every single change for you. The link will be in the description.